They are removing our stories and our history. They are removing our names from government buildings. It's as if someone wants to erase our footprints.
This throws all sorts of issues, legal issues as well, commenting on it because it might develop over the next couple of weeks and days.
We never imagined the day would come when the man who transformed a humble plywood stage in Atlanta into a billion-dollar dream machine would find himself caught in a real-life drama that rivals his most gripping scripts. And yet, here we are through the backlot of our collective imagination, watching Tyler Perry's shining empire tremble like a soundstage rocked by an unseen quake. The cameras are still rolling, and the world is leaning in, captivated. But the twist no one dared to write. It isn't the jaw-dropping $260 million lawsuit filed by a former cast member. It's not the flood of tabloid headlines hinting at shadowy misconduct on the set of The Oval. And it's certainly not the growing crowd of vultures circling, ready to feast on whatever remains. No, the real threat comes in the form of a velvet voice, whispering carefully behind closed FBI doors. A voice that, we now know, belongs to none other than Meghan Markle, the very woman Perry once.
There have been some sexual assault claims made by him. It's a chap called Derek Dixon, and it's a $260 million lawsuit. And I'm going to say it's interesting because he is Lilibet's godfather. He revealed this on the Netflix show. He appeared as a character witness for Harry and Meghan.
It's called his own. The same guest he welcomed with open arms when every royal gate slammed in her face. We feel the chill now because we remember exactly how this friendship began. We remember those hushed phone calls in the spring of 2020 when a duchess in free fall reached out to the one man she believed could offer refuge without judgment. Perry, ever the gracious protector, answered without hesitation. He flew the Sussexes into the U.S. under a cloak of secrecy, opened the doors to his private estate, provided full security, and embraced baby Lilibet as her godfather. He did it out of loyalty because that's what he's always stood for in his stories. Come as you are safe here, and we applauded. The tabloids hailed it as a Hollywood fairy tale, a black Cinderella, at last, finding her people in a kingdom that welcomed her. But every fairy tale has its curse. And somewhere between sunlit breakfasts on Perry's
filed lawsuit accuses Tyler Perry of assaulting an actor on one of the filmmaker's shows. Actor Derek Dixon has sued Perry for $260 million.
Malibu veranda and Meghan's first major Netflix deal. Something shifted, something soured. We feel the tension now because behind Meghan's calm smile, insiders say, was a storm quietly brewing. They claim she began to resent what she saw as betrayal at the moment Tyler Perry chose to reclaim his own life and scale back his visible support for the Montecito ex-royals. To her, it wasn't distance. It was disloyalty. Those close to the situation say she believed Perry was basking in her spotlight, using their bond for red carpet clout, turning into a walking symbol of a favor she'd never be allowed to forget. And when troubling murmurs began to circulate of misconduct behind closed sets and inappropriate behavior in shadowy green rooms, Perry, allegedly, stopped picking up the phone. Montecito's calls went unanswered, and from that silence, sources insist, Meghan made a decision. If he would no longer stay inside her circle, she'd step outside his and maybe offer the watchdogs something juicy to chew on. And then, the spark hit the powder. The revelation was so volatile, you could almost feel the static in the air before it even made the gossip rounds. Meghan Markle, once hailed as the Duchess who shattered the palace glass ceiling, had reportedly been quietly cooperating with FBI agents for months. Screenshots, emails, possibly even a secretly recorded voice memo or two. If the whispers are true, she's painted Tyler Perry, not as a savior but as the Machiavelli of studio backlots. We don't yet know what her full testimony holds, but the effect is undeniable. The Department of Justice went from casually curious to fully ignited. And that $260 million lawsuit from actor Derek Dixon, once dismissed as a desperate money grab, now looks eerily like a single tile in a much bigger domino setup. If Meghan truly has evidence that Harry was aware of inappropriate pressures being placed on young talent, and that he crossed boundaries anyway, then civil court might just be the start of their problems. Of course, critics will point to the timing. Why now? Why wait? That's the defense's favorite line. If something happened, why didn't you report it sooner? But plaintiffs' attorneys love a well-documented paper trail. And word is, Dixon has been in therapy since 2020. That could change everything. Meanwhile, Hollywood is cleaving along a brand new fault line. On one side stands Perry's fiercely loyal circle actors from his 24 dramas who swear by him as the rare mogul who pays on time, who gives leading roles to those others cast aside. They quote attorney Matthew Boyd's soundbite like scripture. These claims are fabricated and they will fail, repeating it like a prayer, hoping repetition can drown out the accusations. On the other side, a long brewing storm of critics, creatives, and sideline starlets who've been waiting for this moment, the chance to take down the man some call a one-man writer's strike. So prolific his DIY empire left little room for others, and in the middle, caught in the crosshairs, stand Harry and Meghan, beloved by some, despised by others, but holding the one piece no one else has, insider knowledge. Let's be clear, Meghan's motives aren't purely noble. She's no longer the ingenue who wanted to modernize the monarchy. Her ambitions now are Beyoncé-sized luxury brands, humanitarian projects, a podcast that charts in 40-plus countries, maybe even Senate hearings on online hate. But to dominate Hollywood, she must first reshape it. And toppling Perry, that's how she proves she can. Because if a man worth $1.4 billion can be dragged into federal court by the same woman he once called his sister, every gatekeeper in town will think twice before crossing her. This isn't just scandal. This is Game of Thrones played out in Malibu mansions, with ocean views and wellness SMOOTHIES. For Tyler Perry, the storm is only growing stronger. The once dismissed documentary about his life written off as clickbait just months ago, suddenly fast-track production. Editors are now stitching together tearful testimonies from former staff, stagehands, and forgotten extras, all claiming the warm, welcoming surface of Perry's studio masked long nights of humiliation. Meanwhile, Monique, never one to let a grudge go unsaid, is prepping a scorched earth stand-up special, vowing to name every Hollywood brother who tried to buy her silence with first-class flights and hollow promises. And looming behind it all is the cautionary tale of Sean Diddy Combs, now sitting behind federal bars after his empire collapsed under human trafficking allegations. Another once untouchable giant, another echo ringing through the marble halls of Perry's empire. If Diddy can fall, why not media? But it hasn't been a smooth weekend for Meghan Markle either. Whispers are swirling that she was quietly from sharing the stage with Perry at the prestigious Paley Center honors. Publicists scrambled. The same BET Awards speech that earned Perry a standing ovation just 2 weeks earlier, where he urged Hollywood never to erase black footprints, plays awkwardly on social media, spliced next to court documents detailing late-night invitations to private guest rooms. Suddenly, the mogul who boasted about creating more black millionaires than any other studio now resembles a preacher who's forgotten his own gospel. A-list friends go silent. Oprah retreats on a Mediterranean cruise. Beyoncé scraps plans to film her next video on Perry's Atlanta lot. Van Jones pulls out of moderating a panel on Perry's AI innovations. Once Perry reflected emotionally on what it meant to have Oprah and Meghan Markle show up just for him. Now, those words echo in a very different light. In Montecito, Meghan masters the art of silent messaging, posting sun-kissed footage of banana bread baking with Archie, dropping a tender anniversary reel of her and Harry giggling inside Perry's palatial foyer, and dodging every press inquiry about the unfolding allegations. Her followers flood Perry's Instagram with fire. Silence is betrayal, they write, quoting British analyst Hilary Fordwich like scripture. Still, the question remains, is Meghan playing with fire? If Perry decides to fight back, he has the power in the legal army to level the battlefield. He can unleash hip-powered attorneys with retainers bigger than entire national budgets, release old emails, and remind jurors that Meghan herself flourished under his protection, the same time he's now accused of predatory behavior. Critics warn Meghan can't survive another credibility crisis, not after the Spotify flop or the royal truth wars. They argue that a courtroom cross-examination could unravel her carefully curated image as a voice for the voiceless. Hollywood forgives, but it never forgets. Rumors swirl that Meghan's team once floated a potential divorce book, because let's face it, if Meghan ever left Harry, the backlash would be relentless. Already, social media critics lump her in with Amber Heard and other women cast as manipulative or narcissistic by pop culture's harshest voices. The tide can turn fast, and yet, Perry isn't exactly in control either. Cornered titans tend to swing hard. Word is, he's called a secret summit at his Atlanta compound gathering, the likes of Will Smith, Lee Daniels, and Shonda Rhimes, to map a counterattack. The rumored agenda, a streaming empire takeover, a unified statement accusing Meghan of personal vendetta, and a call for every Perry alum to post videos of solidarity. But the cracks are showing. If even one former star flips to Team Sussex, the whole illusion of unity could collapse faster than a cardboard set in hurricane winds. Hollywood's executives watch from Beverly Hills boardrooms, gaming out the odds. Some think Perry will quietly settle, write a check big enough to fund a mid-budget rom-com, and move on. Others fear Meghan's cooperation with the FBI hints at something bigger, a sting operation, asset freezes, or Perry stepping down from the studio he built atop land once claimed by a Civil War fort. Amazon and Netflix, both locked into multi-picture deals, scramble internal audits, preparing for fallout if Perry becomes toxic. The Writers Guild, still bruised over Perry's refusal to hire full rooms of writers, drafts a "we told you so" resolution. And through it all, viewers are left bewildered, binging Divorce in the Black, wincing at shaky camera work, and wondering, were those low-budget shortcuts or a symptom of something deeper? We scroll Meghan's lifestyle blog, eyeing the eco-friendly chocolate chip cookies beneath essays about workplace dignity, and we tune in as podcast hosts debate. Can a duchess be a whistleblower? Without ambition clouding the message. But perhaps the most powerful twist is the personal one. Sources say Prince Harry never wanted a war with the man he saw as a guardian angel. Tyler Perry wasn't just a benefactor, he was Uncle Tyler, the man who sheltered them during a palace implosion. Insiders say Harry begged Meghan to keep him out of legal crossfire, believing Perry deserves due process and fearing that turning Lilibet's godfather into a courtroom villain will stain their daughter's future memories. Still, Harry supports Meghan's right to speak her truth, and in a quiet move, he's reportedly hired his own lawyers to insulate the Sussex Foundation from the fallout. The couple's famously unshakable unity is now facing its greatest test, and Hollywood, with all its glitter and grudges, is placing bets. Will Harry's devotion hold, or will he tire of life on the front page? Because here's what this all comes down to. If our children don't know our history, they won't know their power. But as the echoes of that bet speech now remind us, it's hard to erase footprints. We can almost feel Tyler Perry's anguish radiating from behind the tall hedges that once guarded his sanctuary. For decades, he crafted a myth one stitched from porch-like confessions, Big Mama's hugs, and salvation always promised by the final credits. Come broken, leave whole, that was his gospel. But now the world is combing through his backstage bins, looking for receipts. If even a fragment of the allegations holds up, the moral spine of Perry's billion-dollar empire could snap, and every Easter sermon embedded in his scripts suddenly risks being used as proof of double standards. Picture it, the billionaire, who placed churches in every cinematic zip code, now asked to explain why young actors say they felt pressured to laugh at his midnight jokes. No wonder he thundered onto the bet stage last month, declaring no one could erase black footprints. He must have felt the erasers hovering. One accusation echoed chillingly. Take your clothes off. I don't even need to touch you, I just want to see you naked. And yet, Meghan's move is no less perilous. She's spent years curating the image of a modern humanitarian graceful under fire, leading with empathy. But empathy falters when it begins to look like revenge. If the public begins to believe her FBI cooperation was driven more by bitterness than bravery, it could sink her brand deals faster than Spotify dropped archetypes. America loves a crusader. It scorns a calculated vendetta. So Meghan's team walks a tightrope, releasing just enough clues. Vague affirmations of standing with survivors. Subtle allusions to women speaking from the shadows. Trying to shape her role as principled, not punitive. But as legal analysts have noted, California law allows anonymity. Derek Dixon chose to file publicly. That, they say, changes the stakes. Now, we arrive at the question buzzing in every studio corridor. Who will realign, and who will disappear? Tara G. Panjang. Henson, after some hesitation, agrees to Perry's next project, but adds a contract clause, immediate exit if indictments land. Kerry Washington, longtime advocate for Time's Up, quietly steps away from a Perry cameo, opting instead to moderate a panel on consent. Ava DuVernay calls for sweeping reform, but names no names. Denzel stays silent. Oprah's book club features a novel about betrayal in halls of power. And on social media, it's war. Grassroots hashtags clash. Hashtag stand with Tyler versus. Hashtag believe Derek dash in a meme-fueled battlefield. At late-night diners from Sunset to Peachtree, crews divide into camps. The Perry loyalists who owe him their first mortgage, the Markle believers who see her forcing accountability, and the cynics who think both camps are weaponizing a lawsuit while real victims get lost in the noise. The debates sound like old gospel revivals, shouted, passionate, and punctuated with slammed mugs. Even news anchors can't resist the bait, looping the same clip of Meghan ducking into a black SUV outside a Brentwood studio, her face shielded by oversized sunglasses. While Perry's attorneys file motions to seal deposition tapes downtown. The calendar ticks toward the first pretrial hearing. Behind the scenes, chaos ripples. Insurance firms reassess liability. Studios renegotiate clauses, and rising actors wonder, signing a Perry deal now, is it bold loyalty or career suicide? Perry's PR team uploads feel-good montages, scholarships, hurricane relief, orphanages in Haiti. Meghan's Instagram fires back with rescued beagles chasing butterflies under captions about kindness. Viewers scroll back and forth, whiplashed, trying to find their moral compass in the algorithm. One moment shocks many. Meghan, despite sitting on the event committee, was absent from the stage as Perry was honored. Oprah stood by him. Carrie was there. Meghan was not. But we'd be foolish to think the legal storm is the story as if now crescendo. Beneath the headlines, a slower, more intimate battle simmers, a psychological war playing out behind manicured veneers and media filters. Meghan knows silence can scream louder than words. With each day she avoids the spotlight. Pundits invent motives, Some label her cold and strategic, others hail her restraint as dignified. Perry, by contrast, can't stay quiet. His brand is built on emotional transparency. Yet now, every word risks becoming evidence. They're both walking a razor's edge, each misstep a potential brand implosion. This is a high-wire act over a canyon of consequence. And the body language isn't helping. Watch closely. On a recent red carpet, Perry barely engages. They pose, smile, then part. Was it choreography or distance? Because we can't forget beneath the money, the mansions, the documentaries, and the lawsuits, there's a child whose godfather is now a legal target. There's a prince watching the man who once saved his family get crucified in public. There's a duchess trying to prove her truth isn't revenge. And there's a mogul trying to prove that his past sermons weren't just well-lit fiction. And so, here we are, watching two empires teeter on the brink. The crowd gathering around this spectacle isn't just rubbernecking for gossip, they're invested. Deeply, these are black creatives who grew up reciting Medea monologues in church basements. Women who saw a piece of themselves in Meghan Markle's rise, navigating microaggressions in boardrooms and backlots. Young artists watching this saga play out like a survival guide, taking mental notes on how power shifts, who gets protected, and who gets punished. For them, this isn't a scandal, it's a referendum. On loyalty, on justice, on the price of ambition. And we all hold our collective breath, because no matter who falls, Perry or Markle, the tremors will reach us. They'll rattle what we believe about fame, fairness, and who can be trusted when the lights go down. And now, the spotlights dim, the orchestra swells. The credits roll in on a cliffhanger we never asked for. Tyler Perry, once the rags to riches storyteller, the man who built a kingdom out of plywood and prayer, now accused of wielding his power like a velvet-trapped weapon, and Meghan Markle, the duchess who once fled the golden cage of royalty, emerges as the quiet informant, the key witness whose testimony could slam another set of iron doors. This time, behind the very man who gave her shelter. To meteors. One sky, destined to collide, not out of malice but because neither of them could resist the pull of power. And now we feel the burn from their descent, the heat licking our skin. And still we cannot look away. Insiders whisper that Perry, for all his loyalty, has grown wary of the sixes, that Meghan's demands grew heavy, that while he offered his home, she offered headlines. Yet even now, the question looms like a final scene script rewrite. Will Perry's empire collapse under the weight of backlot secrets and insider confessions? Or will the godfather of 21st century melodrama rise again, Phoenix-like, rewriting the narrative and reclaiming the stage? Will Meghan's silence age into sainthood or suspicion? When jurors and audiences alike finally sort truth from tale, will she be remembered as brave or as brutally strategic? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what lesson will Hollywood take from this? That betrayal writes the sharpest scenes. Or that loyalty without accountability is just another studio slogan, polished and hollow. Whatever verdict arrives, one thing's for certain, we'll be watching, eyes wide, popcorn in hand, hearts pounding, waiting for the next scene. So now we ask you, will you stand with the mogul who built kingdoms from the ground up, or the duchess who dares to burn bridges to claim her crown? Drop your verdict below. Keep the debate blazing.